Hello students, in the last module we discussed about the various types of software and the functions of an operating system. Today we are going to continue with the same chapter and discuss the different types of operating systems. So let us begin with it. The first type of operating system is a single user operating system. This was the initial operating system developed. It allowed only one user to work with the computer at a given time. The examples were MS-DOS, Windows 95, etc. DOS here stands for Disk Operating System. The second type of operating system is multi-user operating system. It allows more than one user to work with a given computer at the same time. So the problem faced in the first type of operating system was resolved in the second type. That means in single user operating system, the multiple users were not allowed, which happened to work upon in multi-user operating system. The examples of multi-user operating systems are Windows 2000, Windows 8, etc. The third type of operating system is multi-processor operating system. Here several processors work under the same operating system, and this provides higher computer power and speed, and it allows users to work with multiple applications at the same time. For example, Windows XP, Unix, etc. The fourth category is multitasking operating system. Now this allows users to do multiple tasks at the same time under a single processor. Now do not get confused between multiprocessor and multitasking operating system. In both of them we are doing multiple applications. But in multiprocessors you need to notice that there are several processors, a number of processors which are working together. But in the case of multitasking, only a single processor is giving you the option of doing multiple tasks at the same time. Now the ability of performing more than one task at the same time is called multitasking. For example, Windows 8, Windows 10 are the operating system that are multitasking operating system. The fifth type is multi-threading operating system. This allows different parts of a software to run simultaneously. That means it can delay the execution response of certain processes. Like it happens while playing some online games like a cricket game wherein we have two players, one opting for batting and the other one is going for bowling. Now once the bowling is done, the batting has to take place, but at that time the previous process, that means bowling, has to delay. Now these are not the only two processes which are working. We have fielding, we have scorecard maintenance, and then we have commentary. So number of different processes are going to be taken care, and they will be called as various threads in the same software. So this is going to be taken care by the operating system, that is a multi-threading operating system. As an example, we have Windows 7, Windows 8. The sixth operating system is distributed operating system. Now it runs on a set of different computers which are located in different geographical areas, but they are interconnected by a network. So it makes them appear like a single computer. The example of distributed operating system are Inferno, Plan 9, etc. The seventh type is RTOS, which stands for Real-Time Operating System. Now this operating system is designed to handle the real life situations, the real life problems. It is used when the time span required to react to an input is rigid, that is, it is time bound. Even a slight delay will cause the system to fail, like it happens in air traffic control. If there will be a slight delay, you can understand what sort of disaster can take place. So the examples are in air traffic control, in robots, etc. RTOS is of two types. The first type is hard real-time system. Now it completes critical tasks within time. Examples are air traffic control, weapon systems, where we have to take care of even a single delay, which should not happen. So it is very much time bound. The second type of RTOS is soft real-time system, and it deals with the tasks which are less critical, like virtual reality, undersea exploration, etc. So after this topic, we move ahead with the topic user interface. So the question that pops up in the mind is, what do we mean by a user interface? A hardware-software mechanism by which a user interacts with the computer to pass instructions to it is called user interface. Remember, computer is just a machine, so it cannot take its own decision. So we need to tell the computer what to do and how to do it. So for that we require a mechanism by which we can interact with the computer. So this hardware-software mechanism is actually a user interface. So there are certain types of user interface which we are going to talk about. So actually there are two user interfaces. The first one is called CUI, which stands for Character User Interface. Now it requires a user to type commands in order to interact with the computer system. It is also called Command Line Interface, that is CLI. The examples are DOS, Unix, etc. So here the user has to actually learn those commands and type them in order to interact with the system. The second type of user interface is GUI, which stands for Graphical User Interface. It is graphics based. There's no need to type commands in order to interact with the computer system. Rather, we have icons, we have pictures wherein we can make use of mouse and click on them and the action takes place. The examples of GUI are Windows 8, Windows 10 and the other versions of Windows. Now there is a difference, there are a number of differences between CUI and GUI. Let us discuss few of them. The first difference that we are going to talk about is CUI is text-based interface. That means we have to type commands in order to interact with the system. So it is not very user-friendly because the user has to learn those commands first. Whereas GUI is graphics-based. So it becomes easy for the user to interact. The user has to simply click on the icons and the action will be done. So GUI is user-friendly. So this becomes the first difference. The second difference, only one task can be worked upon at a time in the case of CUI, whereas we can do multiple tasks in the case of GUI. Like we can listen to audio songs, we can work on a Word file, we can prepare a presentations, a number of different things can be done using GUI. Moving on to the third difference, CUI is less attractive interface because it is simple screen wherein we are going to type all those commands which are only text. Whereas GUI is attractive interface because we have a complete screen where different sorts of icons are there and we can always change the picturization or the appearance of the screen, so it becomes more attractive. Moving on to the next difference, CUI is less expensive, the cost is less, whereas GUI it is expensive, the cost is more as compared to CUI. The next difference, CUI requires less hard disk space. So the storage required for CUI is less, whereas GUI requires a larger hard disk space for the storage. Moving on to the next difference, CUI requires less RAM to be executed, whereas GUI requires more RAM because the capacity is more. So it is going to run using more RAM. So these are few differences which I have discussed in between the character user interface and the graphical user interface. You have to go through these differences and you need to remember them. If you notice them carefully, the first three differences which I have taken is actually the advantage of GUI over CUI. And the next three differences that I have taken under them is actually the disadvantage of GUI as compared to CUI. That means CUI is having an advantage over GUI in the last three differences. So you need to take care of this slide and remember these points. After this explanation, we move ahead with the assignment for the week. You need to answer the given questions neatly in the same fair notebook in which you have done your previous assignment. So moving on to the first question, what are the advantages of a GUI over CUI? So I believe you remember what I said in the previous slide. The first three differences which are given are actually the advantages of GUI over CUI. So you can always write the answer in the same way. Next question is, what are the disadvantages of GUI over CUI? So the last three differences in the previous slide are actually the answer for this question number 2. The third question is, write in short about RTOS and explain its type. So there's one slide where I have already discussed RTOS. So you are going to find the answer in that particular slide. The next question is to define the given terms. The first term is user interface and the second term is distributed operating system. Now both the things are clearly explained in the given PDF, you can always refer the PDF for the same. So this is the end of the module, and it brings us to the end of the chapter also. The students who are already having the textbook, I recommend that you go through each and every thing given in the chapter. You have to read it properly, and in case you have any sort of query or doubt, you should keep it marked. Whenever we are going to meet, you can discuss it in the classroom with your respective teachers. So complete your work and take care of yourself. Thank you, students.